so fun. You can slam fire it. So hold the trigger down. Got the fire pistol. You can design this with balance of gravity so I can ride it when the trigger is. And I discovered this too. You can close it. I mean, this is the ideal sidearm, really. This is the Zinc 2.0 by 118 Design, also known as Auto Sidearm on Discord. It is a spring-powered pistol, like the Rainbow pistol, but it's mag-fed, top prime, like the Derrikk Sun Mark II. The 1.0 is a design that has a lot of reviews and a lot of content out there already. So I'm going to do a quick overview of the 2.0 and then be a little bit more detailed in talking about the differences between the 1 and the 2 and what I think about this blaster. So the 2.0, the Zinc specifically, has a lot of cool features. So the magazine itself is a feature in itself because you can eject it. It's got a spring assist mag eject. It's like the only blaster I know of that has an eject spring for the magazine. It is way fun. The print sliding is not the sexiest noise. And the magazine itself is assembled using a basic Talon spring. There's no other hardware, very quick and easy. With the magazine, it is a 7-round magazine. It has a mag release button by the trigger guard. However, it is not ambidextrous. You have to print a left or the right side version, but I think it works pretty well. It depends on how you like your releases. The Zinc, this 2.0, has the plunger tube nested inside of the top slide, and it's a pull to prime. Unlike the 1.0, the 2.0 has these built-in 3D printed grips here, so we can more easily pull it. And it has a dart stop, where if you're out of darts, the slide can't be pushed forward to alert the user that you're out of darts and you need to reload. It cannot be deprimed, so you have to fire it to deprime it. However, it has a built-in kind of shock pad for the plunger, so if you dry fired it, it wouldn't even be that bad. I wouldn't recommend it either way. However, I've dry fired this thing quite a bit, and because of that, because I found that out, I realized that it actually has slam fire. If you know the Strong Arm or the Strong Arm's older brother that was a little bit newer, and a lot of blasters like the Lynx, anything with a moving catch like the Zinc does or the Lynx, you can slam fire it. So hold the trigger down, rapid fire pistol. And that's basically it. It's a really simple build. It's got all those ergonomics that you can tell is a really kind of real steel design. I don't know what it was designed after, but because of the real steel design, it feels great. The prime is very natural, very normal. It does not use Talon or Katana magazines, just a proprietary magazine. However, I think you could modify it to take modified slanted Talon magazines, so more on that to come. So this Zinc, I built, the entire build I think took me a little over an hour, I'd say total. Just finished it today. So this is the prototype version, so the numbers here will reflect that. It's not been fully tuned up yet, but again, with a little bit of tinkering, we're already getting good performance. That was 90. A little low, 130, 140, 120, 130. Oh, that hit the chronograph. I think those lower shots are me aiming too low. There you go, 158. So if we ignore the shots that were too low and skimming the inside of the chronograph, you got 140, 130, 158, and that's with just the default kind of setup here. With a little bit of tinkering though, he does advertise it could hit 175. I'd be excited to try that, but we're looking at about 100, 150, 160 performance. So for the size, that's some really good performance. And it's not a hard prime at all. I love it. So cool. Now a little more technical about the 2.0. As far as difficulty of build goes, like I said, it took me a little over an hour, maybe 2 tops. In between builds, parts broke, got stepped on. So that kind of took some time out of it. But like most slide blasters, the Zinc does have quite a bit of filing or lubrication to get it to function smoothly. So if your printer is dialed in just right for the design, it would probably be smoother. But I did spend, of that hour, I did probably spend 20 minutes of that filing, which is not super great. So I am planning on doing some optimizations, at least for my own printers, to make it assemble a bit easier. So it's not that bad. The tolerances are very tight, but that aside, the entire build I think is ingenious. It's assembled with very little hardware. With more optimizations, you could even assemble it with even less hardware. It does have a custom CNC plunger core that slides across this rail, and it holds the entire blaster together. And because of that, everything is built on that. So very minimal hardware. The prime on the 2.0 is better than 1.0 because you do have the top, all these ridges and these grooves that you can pull on. Very smooth aesthetic. This one's a bit stiff just because it's in a prototype. I didn't file it very much. So it's a little stiff, but I imagine that a couple of tinkering, it'll be great. The designer did mention that you should print it in PETG. I printed this entirely out of PLA because I wanted to see what would happen. Default settings, very minimal supports. Unlike the 1.0, there were some supports. There are so few, I can't remember where the supports were. I think there were supports a little bit on the frame, just in like where the trigger guard goes in, and then there was a little bit of built-in supports to remove, like a built-in brim on the slide. Other than that, there were no supports, except for like a little bit on the catch, but nothing crazy. And so really easy to print, easy to build, great design. This is, like I said, entirely out of PLA with default settings, and I have been dry firing it admittedly a bit too much, and it has yet to break on me. So I think durability wise, this thing is great. And also it feels really strong. The entire frame is one solid piece grip with a lower and an upper, and if I can't imagine anything would really break on this. The one that did break that I mentioned about was because I stepped on it when it wasn't assembled. So as long as you don't step on it, it's a rock. I'm quite impressed. I think that 118 Designs knocked it out of the park with his improvements on this one, and I have just looked at it, read through his assembly manual, and I was already kind of blown away, like how simple and how easy it is. And he clearly put a lot of time into it, I'm sure. And so I'm excited to see what LT designs as well, but it's phenomenal. One thing that can be difficult about these magazines that I've heard in other video reviews is that it's hard to assemble them, take a lot of filing, and get them to move smoothly. All I had to do on this one was the orange follower had a little bit of elephant's foot. I just took a file and ran it on all four edges, and then it was good to go. No other modifications at all. And for the magazine itself, I just printed it like this, straight up, and it just went together. And there's no hardware in the bottom either, it just snaps on bottom plate. It was so easy to build, at least with my printer switcher reasonably dialed in, but not perfect by any means. And so I think it works great for that one. As far as difficulty of build for a new beginner, it did take a little bit more work than your average caliburn per se, maybe because fewer people have built these, maybe because the hardware is a little bit more unique. For example, you need an Allen wrench for the hex socket head screws, which can be a little bit more difficult or uncommon. The most interesting thing about it is the plunger core and the smooth rod that it rides on. I had to use a 5/16 wrench to tighten the rod into the front in order to get enough force on it because my prints came out a little tight. And so I had to have enough force of a wrench to do it. And then to put the core onto the plunger, I had to hold one end of, I used a wrench to hold the CNC plunger core and then a pair of pliers to really twist them together. So that was a tight fit, and the tolerances all around were a bit tight, and so there was a bit of filing to be done as well. However, with the right tools, like for the trigger, a nice round file, it only took me a couple minutes of filing. But for it to be slapped together first time build, there is a bit more touch-ups to be done than say caliburn as far as tolerances goes, but not a bad first build as well. If you have a basic file set, socket wrench set, pair of pliers at home, you can build this pretty easily. No, I love the Zinc. It is so fun. Features. Yeah, slam fire, the dart, the bolt lock, and then each mag jet. And it does have a built-in skinny pusher or vanguard, so you can put the magazine in without priming the blaster. And so far as I can tell, it is dry fire safe. And printable in PLA just fine. I think that the design is amazing. So, too long didn't read. The Zinc is a spring powered top prime proprietary 7-round mag fed. You could easily make this longer though. Like we're talking like, much longer. So 7-round proprietary mag fed top prime, spring powered blaster. It fires around 150 FPS. You can get it down to 130 or as high as 175 with some tinkering. And it is pretty ergonomic, comfy. It's also one of the smallest platforms and the sleekest, smoothest designs. Ah, this is so cool. It is so sleek. It's like James Bond feel. I know it's not as small as the PPK, but as far as Nerf goes, it's pretty dang small. Like maybe twice as big as a Jolt, you know? 2-3 times as big. Anyway, super sleek. Top prime, like a Chronos, but I think it's got an easier pull than a modified Chronos. Top prime, spring powered, mag and handle, 7 round. Mag eject. That's so fun. Wish I had more mags to like. And I discovered this too. You can close it by flicking it. That's so fun. So I'm excited. 118 Designs, thank you so much for allowing us to start offering these. I think, don't quote me on this, $150 is what we said the price would be for an assembled version. And I'm very, very excited. You will probably want to get a 5/16 socket and a wrench if you don't have one, if you want to maintenance on this thing. Because it can be really hard to get that nut in the back, and we'll probably... These assembly instructions were helpful, but it didn't really say how to put the whole thing together. It was more how to build the modules. And putting the whole thing together, it didn't say much, so I kind of had to figure that out on my own. And I would definitely recommend something long and skinny as a socket to get in there. But yippee-ki-yay, mother buckets.